We do appreciate y'all joining. You are at the Southeast Appalachia Conference, presented by Citizens Climate Education and Kroger's Zero Hunger Initiative. We really appreciate Kroger's support in helping to make this conference happen. Stop sharing for a moment. I'll see all your wonderful faces. Thank you all for being brave enough to have a video on at 8:15 in the morning. I think that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Oh, so we are 8:15, and so I would really like to just thank you all for being here and turn it over to Solemi Hernandez, who will be our Masters of Ceremonies today. And with that, I will turn it over to Solemi for her to kick us off. Solemi?
Thank you, Don. And welcome to our Citizens Climate Education 2020 Southeast Appalachia Conference. Citizens Climate Education is a nonprofit, nonpartisan grassroots advocacy organization focused on empowering everyday people to work with their community and their members of Congress on climate change solutions. My name is Solemi Hernandez, and I have the honor to be Citizens Climate Education Southeast Regional Coordinator. I am delighted to have you all here. We have an amazing schedule for you today that aims to take you from the climate crisis to climate opportunities. I want to start by thanking the conference organizers and our sponsor, Kroger, and their Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative for helping to make this event possible. Next, I want to introduce our Executive Director, Mark Reynolds, who has opening words for us to kick off the conference.
Hi, I am so happy to be part of this conference, the first ever Appalachian Conference, and the first time that I've been in the Southeast for a long time. The last time I was at the Southeast Regional Conference, we were at Georgia Tech University. For those of you who are there, you remember maybe that Bob Inglis was a keynote speaker, and that was the conference where he told us, if you go into a Republican office and you say sustainability, they hear bug eater. And we've worked really hard to make sure that our messaging works from people from both sides of the aisle, but we weren't going to take a statement like that sitting down. So somebody actually went and bought a bunch of edible bugs. It might have been Brandon. And then we took a picture of all of us holding an edible bug just above our mouth. And so that particular Southeast conference has always had a lasting impression on me, but I'm very excited to be part of this one. So I found that study that shows one of the most stressful jobs in America, and number 1 and 2 are still Afghanistan and Iraq, 3 and 4 are police and firework, and the 5th one is event planning. And you'd think maybe if the event was online that would change, but it doesn't. So, having gone through the process of putting on a virtual Earth Day and then the June conference and working towards the event we'll do in December, it's enormously stressful work. So I really want to thank Jan Barry and the people who are organized, who are doing the work to organize this. I know it might look like, the rest of us just show up, but there's an enormous amount of work behind the scenes that went into making this work. Also, Solemi Hernandez and John Clark, thank you for your incredible stewardship in your regions. It's just a pleasure to be part of this conference. Okay, I personally am really looking forward to the day that we're back together. We're an organization that's always bet everything on relationships and human connections. And that's not just members of Congress and their staff, it's each other. And we do that by getting together. And I know it's challenging. But the matter of fact is, some people for their June lobby meetings actually made the meetings better because they were able to include community leaders that usually couldn't have come to DC with us. So we will make the best of it. We'll work together and we'll work on our relationships here in a virtual environment. And then one day, hopefully we'll get together. And, one of the things I look forward to the conference is I actually just like giving a whole bunch of people a hug. And I know not everybody's a hugger. Some people I work with are and some aren't. So you hug the people that like to be hugged and you don't hug the people that don't like. But I envision a future conference in the not too distant future where we actually put that on your name tag. Yes, hug, no hug. And then I'll stand at the end of the line for all the people that says yes, hug. And you'll sign a waiver that'll say the person that you're about to hug doesn't have COVID. He might have a couple other things that'll kill you, but it isn't COVID. and then we'll take your temperature, and if you pass the test, we'll give you a hug and go in the conference. So I hope that happens before too long. In the meantime, I'm happy that you're here together today. So what are we working on? We're working very hard to make sure that carbon pricing is part of any climate package that gets introduced in 2021. So some of the things that you'll be hearing about, and probably already have heard about, is we want to ask the people that are existing sponsors of HR 763 to commit to sponsoring again next year. If they have questions about any potential changes, that we would want them to reach out to Mr. Deutsch's office. We'd also like those people who've already signed on as co-sponsors to reach out to leadership and ask them to make sure that a price is part of any climate package. We're also going to be reaching out to the people who endorse the bill and asking them to make additional statements. That could be bill sponsors also. That could be in the form of letters to the editor. That could be in the way of op-eds. It could be just calling their members of Congress and their senators. So we'll be pushing on that. We're also evaluating every possible election scenario so that when we come back together in early December, after the election, we have a clear path forward that we've already worked on in advance. So we've been working very hard evaluating every election scenario and articulating what we think is our most efficient path coming out of that. Okay, there's one other thing that I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to share my screen for a second, so you could just bear with me for just a second here. And okay, so I'm going to share something with you. We found an organization called Our Common Purpose, and they wrote a paper called Reinventing American Democracy for the 21st Century by Danielle B. Heinz and Eric Liu. The opportunity to participate fully in our constitutional democracy is, in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., the chance to complete ourselves. Our best hope for human fulfillment lies in supporting and nurturing the political system that has been bequeathed to us, our constitutional democracy. Yet our ties to one another are fragile. The very institutions that should be the instrument of our freedom and the source of our protection appear to fail us. We do not trust them. We do not trust one another. In fear for and anxiety about our own prospects, we turn on one another. We starve our constitutional democracy of the nourishment it needs, closing our hearts to our fellow citizens. Why should we give our energies to one another again? Not to rebuild the republic as we knew it, not to restore a golden age. Our public sphere is full of disagreement, in great measure because voices formerly excluded are now in the debate. The clamor and clash of our contests are, in a sense, a victory. We have made ourselves a bigger people, a more capacious and sometimes contradictory people, and therefore also a more resourceful people. The question now is whether we can find our way to accommodations with one another so that we can birth for ourselves a sense of shared fate. To develop accommodations with one another, we need functional institutions for our joint decision-making. We can pick up this piece of work now together, but at the same time, we must also kindle a spirit of mutual responsibility in civic life, a humility that rehumanizes us. Our institutions and our norms will thrive only if we remember that democracy, when it works, is not a battle whose purpose is annihilation of the enemy. It is, if it works, a game of infinite repeat play that includes ever more participants. We must therefore remember how to work together, even with those we might want to demonize or ignore, if we are to achieve the reinvention called for here. We have no time to waste. Our constitutional democracy is only as strong and resilient as our belief in it. For love of freedom and equality, for love of country, for love of one another, and out of hope for a better future, we need to reclaim our bond. If we turn back toward one another, we can transform our institutions. We can renovate our Constitution. We can elevate our culture. We can at last achieve a true democracy. I wanted to share that with you because, you know, we are a climate change organization. We just do one thing. We try and get the climate right. And inside of that, we just do one piece of that at this point, which is the price part. We'll take on more once that's done. So we're a very focused effort, but we should also understand that the stakes are very high, and we have a lot to say about the future of this democracy and our country and our fellow citizens. Thank you all for getting together. Again, I hope to see you all so soon, and thank you for letting me be a part of your conference.
Thank you, Mark, for such an inspiring words. In Citizens Climate Education, we believe there is an essential intersection between climate and art. For this reason, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Marilyn Kallet, who served as the recent Knoxville Poet Laureate from 2018 until now.
Climate Elegy and Ode. Seasons of mist and mellow fruitfulness. Alas, more like seasons of withered grass and wildfires, seasons of flood, seasons of drought. When a 16-year-old is smarter than an elected official, you tell me, whom should I vote for? And that ode to a nightingale? When was the last time you lingered in melodious trill? In the age of humans, in the Anthropocene, we're the ones who must save the planet, our children's future, reverse the burn. Sunscreen alone won't do it, my friends. Listen to the zebra finches warble about warming. They hatch smaller eggs now that hold a greater chance of thriving. Like them, we must build smaller, more sustainable nests. Our children are singing boldly, hoping the adults will hear. Listen, this may be our one shot at composing a score for them and theirs. Let's sing as if the air and life itself depends on our tender, determined voices.
Thank you, Dr. Marilyn, for that beautiful poem. Our next speaker is Dr. Plowman, who became the University of Knoxville, Tennessee, 9th Chancellor in 2019. Under her leadership, the university has placed a renewed focus on its land-grant mission as the state flagship public institution.
Good morning. I'm Donde Plowman, Chancellor of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Welcome to the 2020 Citizens Climate Southeast Appalachia Conference. Over the past several months, our world has changed dramatically, and we have all faced new and sometimes very difficult challenges. While we must maintain our physical distance right now, creating and maintaining community is more important than ever. We are glad you're here virtually as a community, and I appreciate you applying your passion and expertise to making our broader communities healthy and sustainable for future generations. As the state's land-grant university, UT Knoxville is here to serve the people of Tennessee. Passion and innovation, especially innovation aimed at solving real-world problems, is a vital part of that mission. I'm incredibly proud of our volunteer students and faculty who work hard on projects that they are passionate about and that will benefit others. I'm glad to see that 6 speakers for today are members of our volunteer community. I challenge you to share what you know, take what you learn, and dream big about how you can make a difference. Please enjoy your time together and have a great conference and enjoy the community that you are creating. Go Vols.
Thank you for those wonderful words, Chancellor Plowman. Our next speaker is Mayor Kincannon. She campaigned on a message of creating and spreading opportunities to all parts of Knoxville. She pledged to balance smart growth with the need to protect green spaces, to promote transparent and efficient government service, and to continue Knoxville collaborative work with partners to increase affordable housing. At the core of her message is a deep commitment to strengthen neighborhoods and encourage vibrancy.
Thank you so much, Solemi. I really appreciate the kind introduction. Can everybody hear me okay? Wave if you can hear me. Okay, great. I'm really honored that Knoxville was chosen to host the Southeast Appalachian Climate Conference. And even though we're virtual, I'm grateful for the team of leaders and volunteers from the local Citizens Climate Lobby chapter who have worked so hard for over a year to welcome you to this conference. They've shown an exceptional spirit of resilience, and it's thanks to their commitment to persevere and adapt that we're all here today. And although I can't welcome you to Knoxville in person, I do hope that those of you who are calling in from around the region might find a chance to visit Knoxville someday post-COVID. And I'm really glad to see so many of our local residents, climate experts, and activists engaged as speakers and participants. As you'll hear more about at the sessions this weekend, great things are happening in East Tennessee. From Oak Ridge National Laboratory to the University of Tennessee to TVA, and in so many community organizations, our local leaders are leading on climate. And it's a reflection of our community's history, economy, and innovative spirit that the City of Knoxville has been a prominent leader in combating climate change. Starting back when Bill Haslam was mayor, it continued with Mayor Marilyn, and I have aggressive plans to continue this legacy. My passion for environmental stewardship started at a young age, and from something as mundane as watching my father commute from our home in Loudoun County, Virginia into Washington, D.C. You see, as the years went on, the traffic picked up and my father's commute went from 45 minutes to more than an hour and a half. And some days if traffic was bad, it was even longer. So he would leave when it was dark in the morning and not get home till it was dark at night. And the longer he was on the road, clearly the worse it was for the environment. But as a young girl, I just knew that the long commute meant less time at home, less time with family, and a shift in our quality of life. So now as mayor, I find myself recalling those days and asking myself, what can I do to help improve the quality of life for our neighborhoods and families? It's a constant reminder of how working towards healthy and connected neighborhoods often goes hand in hand with making sure we are all doing everything we can to have a clean and resilient future. Sidewalks, greenways, and a robust public transportation system, each one helps our environment and hopefully helps families all at the same time. So needless to say, like my predecessors, I know it is my duty and obligation to leave Knoxville a better place than when I found it. That has to and must include acting boldly and with urgency to address climate change and reduce carbon emissions, both within city government and in the broader community. The good news is that we know that from the city's municipal actions that real results are possible. Since the City of Knoxville began its sustainability efforts in 2008, we've reduced the emissions associated with city government operations by 30% relative to 2005 levels. We did that by buying more fuel-efficient vehicles, improving building performance, and committing to big but money-saving investments like citywide retrofit of Knoxville's nearly 30,000 streetlights to LED. We were the first of the big 4 cities in Tennessee to start this process. Through all of this, and by keeping our eye on the ball, the city far surpassed the goal of reducing municipal emissions 20% by 2020, which was set 12 years ago, and seemed really ambitious. So we know that ambitious goals can be met. We also know we have a lot of work still to do if we are going to keep the worst effects of climate change from hitting our community and from hitting communities across the globe. Our new goal, mine as mayor and with the full support of City Council, is to reduce emissions across the Knoxville community by 80% by 2050. Time is ticking. And that's why, despite the turmoil of the pandemic, I made sure to prioritize the launch of a Mayor's Climate Council to develop and discuss the solutions by which our community can achieve that goal. We've engaged dozens of local leaders and experts in various elements of the council, and it's with the input of these cross-cutting sustainability leaders from across the community that will establish the critical priorities to move the needle toward lower carbon future we seek. Over the next few months, and as we head into next year's budget planning, the Climate Council and our working groups, many of whom are hopefully participating in today's conference, will be looking across the transportation, buildings, energy, waste, and importantly, equity to help us determine what types of strategies we can have the biggest impact and make the most sense for Knoxville. And while we know big change is needed, we also know that small changes add up. Everything from deciding to take public transit when you might otherwise drive your own car, to turning that thermostat up a degree, or making sure you know the do's and don'ts of recycling. Large and small, we've all got to do our part. So today, I'm excited to continue to challenge my administration to seek out more ways, big and small, to lead the way when it comes to combating climate change. And I ask each of you to find the lessons and insights this weekend that you can take back to your cities. Let's learn from each other how we can build healthy, sustainable communities, ones where people of all ages and abilities can get around more easily by walking, taking the bus, or biking. I love having these alternative options as mayor, and I know my dad would have loved to have had that option back when he was stuck in traffic all those years ago. You're here because you care, and your leadership in your own communities matters. Thank you for being here to learn, to share, and to join with others committed to making a positive difference together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Kincannon, for your service and your work in the community. And now we have a video from our conference sponsor, Kroger, and their Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative.
There's a fundamental absurdity in our food system today. 40% of the food that's produced in this country gets thrown away. But 1 in 8 people go to bed hungry every night. And that's just not okay. At Kroger, we believe that we can change that.
Somebody gonna tell you what can be done. Somebody gonna tell you don't have no fun. Somebody gonna tell you which way you go.